Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear, no fear. Why? Because it's a choice. You know, and you don't do anything that, you know, even if they come pounding on you, beating you with a stick, you know, arresting you, doing whatever. I mean, should you have fear? It depends. You know, I don't advocate anybody doing any of this kind of stuff unless you got a videotaper of them videotaping with a videotaper of the guy videotaping of the guy videotaping videotape. Because I'm telling you, you know, if you don't have, and it hasn't been until you started having everybody with a smartphone and an immediate put it up on quick kind of streaming on the web, you know, looky what they're doing, that you really get a feel for what's happening. Because a lot of the public has been propagandized into believing that government is good, and if we didn't have it, what would you have? You would have what? You know, freedom. Ooh, that's scary. We don't want that. You know. So what we're going to do is today on this hour we have a gentleman, and we'll go by his initials are John Blue, and we'll have, and he's a trainer of police officers for years, martial arts expert and firearms, whatever. You know, this is how you're going to arrest him. Just put him on the ground, get him comply or die. Kind of, you know, this is what he's been doing for a long time. Had his son, West Point graduate, was in Iraq. He's a captain, you know, and he was a Kool-Aid drinking individual, you know. But then it just starts to wear on you after a while. I mean, if you're just seeing the kinds of people that come through the ranks, and they keep changing the standards to let more subpar individuals get through. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, let me introduce you to Nick Barrnet from Cop Block. And I'm going to let him just tell you a little bit about Cop Block, and he can give his promo where you can go find all the goodies. And you hear him a lot on LRN.FM in their Cop Block Police Accountability Report. So let's go ahead and have Nick tell us about that a little bit. And I'm going to let him, you know, ask a lot of the questions and kind of grill him. And there's a lot of things that I want to get to. But let's go ahead and say hello to Nick. Hi, Nick.
How's it going?
Now go ahead and tell us about Cop Block.
Well, Cop Block is a decentralized project supported by a diverse group of individuals united by a shared goal of police accountability, education of individual rights, and dissemination of effective tactics to utilize while filming police.
While filming?
Yes.
Got to have that filming part.
While filming police.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to John. John, you know, they like being filmed. They screaming. You know, I remember, go ahead and tell us about when you go into a room, or you have another officer there and so on, somebody's got a gun, man, they're screaming gun. You know, what else are they screaming now?
Well, now they're also looking for cameras just as readily as they would be looking for a gun, a knife, or any other weapon. If a secondary officer approaches and he sees a camera, that he doesn't think the primary officer is spotted, he will yell out camera to make sure that the attention is drawn to that.
Why?
I would assume that it is so that the primary officer can adjust his behavior, since that video is very likely to show up in some form of accountability later.
You know, early on, now we're not going to be showing John on camera because he prefers not, so he can freely discuss things without repercussions. But the one thing that I want to make sure people understand is this. In the first years, when this first started happening, especially when 4409 and so on was doing things, they didn't care. They look at, yeah, you know, I whiz on your camera. Okay. Until after several times of them being made examples of, then all of a sudden policies changed. Now, I want you to go ahead and explain to us your, I guess, what would it be? An epiphany, you know, an awareness? So, I mean, let's go back to 9/11, all right? I'll bet I'm chest-beating, flag-saluting individual, yes?
Yes, I was. I would say at that point, I would had I been a younger man, I would have looked for a path into the military myself. I would have been ready to go over and seek vengeance against whomever the government told me was the appropriate enemy.
And I'm sure you encouraged your son. He went to West Point. I mean, he's not a slacker.
That is correct, and he was actually in the first class to actually be selected and chosen after 9/11. So, yes, that's accurate.
So he went to Iraq.
Yes.
Does he have warm, fuzzy feelings about his service there?
He does not.
Well, did that have an impact on you, your son, you know, given his perspective, or what kind of started to extricate yourself from this mindset?
Well, my son and I see things very similarly, and unfortunately for me, of course, he seems to progress at a much younger age than I have. But each of us read much of the same material. We came to the same realizations that government really isn't solving anything, that the money being spent, Iraq, of course, is a great example. Anybody could spend hours going on all the money being wasted there. But I would say my own personal experience, I noticed more and more that rights seemed to just be a word. They didn't seem to be anything that was recognized as valid by anyone, certainly not by the police and definitely not by the government as a whole.
Okay. Tell us about your experience at being a trainer. Now what you did is in an eastern state, you're up there training people to be line officers, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, now while you did that, the type of people you would get, did you see them change in their character and their fitness and the kind of people that were being put on the front lines? And who made the decisions of what kind of people they were, and what kind of input did you have in selecting, you know, this guy, I don't, you know, not this guy, you know, so give me that process.
Okay, that is probably the one thing that had the largest impact on my decision to not continue in that job. I spent over a decade training police officers. I would say a conservative estimate is that I've trained 800 or so. I noticed very early on that most of the police recruits seemed to be physically fit. I could tell that some departments took their hiring process a little more seriously than others did. And in fact, I knew before a class started which department would send kind of substandard or questionable recruits and which ones would send their better people. Over the years, I noticed a trend, and this is not just my opinion. This is an absolute fact that was shared by many instructors in different areas of expertise. We noticed the recruits were softer, whether it be physically or mentally softer. We noticed they would complain more about minor injuries, and I'm talking about a scratch that a Barney Band-Aid would cover up. We noticed that the physical requirements had to be dropped, because otherwise we would just have to fail too many recruits. So,
well, what about drug usage and stuff too?
Yes, well,
I mean, if you're a young person now, I never take a polygraph. I never touch marijuana. That would be bad. You know, did that change too?
Yes, absolutely, it did. A lot of departments had very strict policies when I first started doing the training, and I don't know to tell you exactly how many drug usages they would allow. That varied from department to department also. But I know that increased over time, increased as in the allowable usages. And not only, say, the number of times you could have smoked marijuana, it also went up to X number allowable usages of cocaine and other drugs.
Now, a lot of the recruits, as they were coming in, I would imagine you probably got a lot of military guys.
Yeah, absolutely. They are preferred by most departments.
Why?
I believe that a lot of the, probably a lot of the higher personnel, a lot of the administration in departments, they seem to be ex-military themselves. So if you have a chief or the major, lieutenants, and so forth that are Marines, they probably would prefer to hire other Marines. It's kind of a esprit de corps type thing. But a lot of the departments feel that ex-military guys are far more easy to direct. They take direction easily, and I can tell you honestly, they're easier for me to train.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. They're already halfway there. Halfway there to what? You know, what kind of people do we have at the tip of the spear? As Jack McLam would put it, I remember, you know, he's Officer Friendly from Phoenix, man. He went, police and military against the New World Order. They didn't like that done too much because he understood the tip of the spear for this tyranny is going to be done by the people on the line. This is Ernest Hancock. I'm publisher of freedomsphoenix.com and the radio talk show host of Declare Your Independence. Now, I want to give you my personal endorsement of a wealthy U.S. citizen that is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He's produced a video for you. It's a real eye-opener, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to watch it. www.endofamerica, the numbers 1 and 7.com. Endofamerica17.com. This video has the history of how we got where we are now and where we're going and why. Now, it's a lengthy video. It'll be about 20 minutes, but you need to watch this so you understand what's going to happen to this country and how you can protect your wealth and even benefit financially. Now, you go there. It's free. I want you to watch this video. You need to have this information so that you can survive the economic collapse that's coming to America. It's not if, it's when. That's End of America, the numbers 1 and 7.com. After you watch it, you'll understand why I endorsed it.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Are you on any medications? Are you getting your meds at a local pharmacy? If you are, you're likely paying more than you have to. There's a better way. Discount Prescription Services will get you your meds at discounts as high as 70%, and they'll deliver them right to your door. All you have to do is go to meds.freetalklive.com and click Become a Member on the left-hand side of the page. Their customer service is excellent.